Okay, so today we're looking at a 2v2 that ladders up into a 4v4. So we're looking at a small-sided practice and how we can utilise small-sided practices to improve our players and get the most out of it. You can adapt the numbers to suit, so I'm using a 2v2 that ladders up into a 4v4, but you can start in 1v1s, move to 2v2s, and then move to a 4v4, start with a 3v3, etc. So have a play with it, depending on what numbers you've got on the day as well, but do it to match your needs. So we're looking at small-sided practice, and I'm a massive fan of these. I build them into all of my sessions, or most of my sessions at least, and there's a huge amount of benefits that you get from these small-sided practices. So lots more touches of the ball. It's all game realistic scenarios. It's directional. And you're going to replicate those game realistic scenarios over and over and over again without having to wait a long time to have another go, like you would in a 6-a-side game or a 7-a-side game, 10-a-side game, 11-a-side game. So in these small practices, you're getting hundreds of touches of the ball, whereas you would get nowhere near that in a bigger game. You're having to take players on constantly, so you might have hundreds of dribbles, tens of dribbles. So you're just doing the repetitions in a skill-based practice, and in a safe environment as well. So you're getting to fail and practice. And these types of practices are absolutely brilliant for players' development, especially at early ages, but build it into older age groups as well. Because at the end of the day, players love it. They're playing a game and it's directional. It's everything that football is, just in a more condensed environment with the players getting more and more of the ball. So when we start in the 2v2s, the objectives of the game are to score a goal in the opposite end with a one-touch finish. So it's directional, as we say, so you're shooting towards a goal. And then the rest of it is just match intensity and exactly like a game of football, and it replicates a game of football. When we're in the 2v2 environment, there's lots of things that we need to think about. So when we're defending, if one presses, the other player needs to cover round and just protect in that 1v1 situation. We can't leave a player 1v1 because 1v1s are very dangerous. If you beat a man, you throw on goal or you create an overload, and you're potentially going to concede a goal. So whoever has the ball, whichever player has the ball, when they are pressed, the spare player covers round and defends round. And once they pass the ball on, that just rotates from one to the other, as you can see on the left-hand side there. The pressing player's main job is to stop that forward pass, and they're trying to make them pass sideways or go backwards, because they would be our pressing triggers, and we can press those players higher up the pitch and force them into a more riskier pass or to lose control of the ball so we can regain the ball back quickly. Before we explore more coaching points, the evolution of the 2v2 is that we just take the middle cones out and we go into a 4v4 that you can see here. So you're using exactly the same area. You've just took those middle strips out. The goals are in the same place, and now you've got a 4v4 situation. And again, it's directional, albeit we've got 2 goals to shoot towards. You could have it as 1 goal if you want to, but you get to play about with that. All of the other principles are exactly the same, but we're in a larger situation. So the players might get less touches of the ball because there's more of them on the field, but how we defend is the same. So a player presses, they get cover round. We stay compact, and communication has got to be really, really high as well, because the ball is going to get moved quickly. We're in a small space, and there's going to be lots of movement and forward movement within this grid. So the evolution from 2v2 to 4v4 is really natural, and the players should be easily able to adapt from the 2v2 scenario into the 4v4 game and take a lot of what they've been learning in those 2v2 situations into the 4v4 practice. So how this relates to your total session build, you might imagine that the 2v2 situation has took 20 minutes of your session up. The 4v4 might take another 20 minutes of your session up. So 40 minutes of your, I presume, 1 hour session is already taken care of. And then you might ladder up into a game at the end if you've got more multiples of this. So you might have 3 2v2s, which is 4, 8, 12, and then you go into a 6v6 at the end. And all you've done is use similar areas, and you've just laddered up into bigger and bigger games. The benefits of that is the players are playing football all of the session. So they're playing football for the entire hour session. They're getting lots and lots of touches of the ball, but then they're laddering up into bigger game scenarios where they've got to execute what they've been learning and what they've been taught in larger team scenarios, and the communication has to change slightly, and how they adapt and solve different problems has to change slightly. But throughout that session, they are fundamentally just playing football. This also makes it very easy for you as a coach, because you haven't got to set up a lot of equipment. You haven't got to worry about pausing the players, setting something different up if you haven't got much space, and the tempo of the session dropping. You haven't got to worry about the players not enjoying something that you're doing, because they love to play football. And every skill, every technical skill that you could think of, every skillful skill that you could think of to execute is gonna come alive in these game situations. So you might want to give certain players different objectives during the skill practice, but still everything that happens in a game of football is going to happen in these situations. What this will be is extremely tiring for the players. It's high tempo. There's a lot of transitions from attack to defence and defence to attack. So the players will be absolutely knackered after this practice, but it's good cardio building and is absolutely along the lines of you can get fit playing football if you do these small-sided games. And it's my firm opinion that you will develop at a lot quicker rate the more touches of the ball you have, especially, like I say, in the younger age groups. Okay, so let's look at some coaching points of this practice. So like I said before, when we're defending, one is pressing the ball and another player is to cover around. We never want to leave a player in a 1v1 situation. If you can get a player 1v1 and you beat them, either you're through on goal or you're going to draw another player to you, and that creates an overload somewhere else in the pitch. So we want to protect the 1v1 situation and cover around. When the ball is passed sideways or backwards, that is a pressing trigger, and we want to embed these pressing triggers with our players. So when they do go into the larger sided games, when they see these things happening in a real game, it happens automatically. We're looking to land. Communication is a huge thing, and the communication style is going to change massively from a 2v2 to a 4v4. But it's really, really important that we do communicate effectively.